I'd like to share with you one lady's experience of why she helped her mum to plan her funeral. I think you'll agree the peace of mind it gave them both was invaluable. Hello, Sandra. So your mum prepaid her funeral.
Yes.
Did she tell you that she was going to do this?
We arranged it between us. We discussed it.
Yeah.
About 4 or 5 years before she passed away.
Yeah.
I brought the subject up because I felt that she wanted to have the funeral she wanted, not what we decided, basically. So, and I have 2 brothers that aren't religious.
Yeah.
So, and I knew my mum was religious and I didn't want any arguments, and I wanted her to have the hymns she wanted, the readings she wanted. And so we sat down and discussed it. And at that time, she wasn't interested.
Oh, okay. So was there something that prompted her then?
No, she just sat on, after we'd talked about it, she sat on it for about a year. And I don't know that there was anything, but she did come, when she came to stay, she did come and say, I've had a think about what you said about a funeral plan, and I think it's probably a good idea. And she said, because she said, there's a reading that I'd like that we had at her mother's funeral. And she said, I would like that. And I said, well, if we don't do anything, we won't know. I wouldn't know what you wanted, or any hymn. And she said, and there are some hymns that I specifically want. So we kind of went from there, which I was pleased about, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went ahead and went to see about it. She wrote down what her wishes were as well. She chose her own coffin and exactly what she wanted, basically. Yeah.
So when the time actually came for you to activate the funeral plan,
yes,
what was the experience like for you? How did you find that?
It was simple, absolutely so simple, because my mum passed away in a home. She'd only been there 4 days. And they rang up and said that she'd passed away, and what about the body, basically? And I said, well, she's got a funeral plan. They said, that's fine, we'll sort that out, we'll send it to the Chapel of Rest. We knew which one it was a local one. And they'll be in touch with you. And from that moment on, they were directly in touch with us later on in the day to say they'd received my mum's body, and to arrange an appointment when we could go down and talk about it, and had the plan at hand and everything. So we, she'd chosen a coffin, she knew what she wanted, we knew the hymns, the readings and everything, and it was so simple. And it transpired that, because I did talk to my brothers before we actually went, and they're both not religious, and it was, well, we could just do this. And I said, no, she's got a plan, there's a plan, and it'll be what she wants. Well, we're not religious, so it's nothing to do with what you are. It's to do with what my mum wanted. And whether you're religious or not has not got anything whatsoever to do with it. And she'd left a note to say she wanted us all to wear some colour. And one of my brothers was adamant he wasn't going to wear any colour. And I said, but this is for Mum, it's not for you. And he says, I wouldn't feel right. I said, it's got nothing to do with how you feel, unfortunately. It's to do with her. So all he would wear, we found she used to donate to the British Legion, and she'd got a poppy because it was that time of year, and he wore the poppy brooch.
Oh, that's
just for the colour, So and the funeral parlour, they were great about dressing her and her clothes and everything, and explaining all the way as well. So it was simple. And we would have argued, I know for a fact. I'd have got upset because I would have known what she wanted. And we would,
that's a really very important side of funeral planning. It's the emotional side, such as you've said, and it stops any family arguments. The person who's died gets the funeral that they want. And then the other side is the financial side, where a lot of people plan ahead because they just they're worried about their loved ones having to pay for the funeral and having to find And the great thing about funeral plans is, as you know, it fixes the cost at today's price. So, you know, after 6 years that your mum had passed away, funeral prices would have gone up, but you didn't have that, you know. Did she have everything covered? Because there are various types of funeral plans where you might have to pay a contribution or pay a little bit.
All we paid for extra, which we knew, because I always said to my mum, look, we only need one funeral car. You don't have to pay for everybody. Everybody's got cars. You don't need to do any of that.
Yeah.
So the only additional things that we paid for were the flowers.
Yeah.
And the notice in the paper.
Yeah.
And I think that was it. Flowers and the notice in the paper. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all that we did have an extra car because we didn't need an extra car. I mean, she was 97. You know, we didn't have a lot of people. There isn't many left when you get to that. But saying that, there were quite a few people there, you know, but yeah. So they're the only additional items that we paid for. Yeah.
That's standard, you know, normally, you know, some people pay a contribution, a little bit extra. Mostly those sort of ancillary services are paid for at the time of the funeral. So
yes, yeah.
So how do you feel, you know, with your mum having planned the funeral? How did it affect you? And how do you think it would have affected you if she hadn't planned?
It would have definitely been the arguments, and I probably wouldn't have won, which then I would have remained now very upset and fallen out with my brothers about it. It's been a stressful time anyway, and especially because she passed away in the October before we started with COVID in the March. And at the same time, my brother was diagnosed with bowel cancer while she was in hospital. So from that, he was my eldest brother, and I had to take over everything. So I had to take over control of selling the house and everything else. Now, if we'd have fallen out over the funeral, it would have continued down the line as to who was doing what, you know, and everything. And I was just happy that it was the day that she wanted, and she had a reading and she had the hymns that she wanted. And in fact, she had the hymns, but they were actually just on like a CD or something, because none of us are singers. And there wasn't many there, so they played and those that could sing sang.
And of course, there was that splash of colour as well.
Yes, yeah. And we had red flowers. I'm trying to think whether there were roses. But when she got married, she had red tulips. So we had red flowers, and also because of the poppies, and it was that time, and order of service thing that had a poppy on it and that. So we paid for those extra. That's what we paid for extra. But But so I think it made us all feel better that we'd done what we should have done for her. You know, at the end of the day, we'd fulfilled what we should have done and what she would have expected us all to do, because she wouldn't have expected us to fall out, but we would have done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So would you recommend, obviously, I'm thinking you'd recommend.
We always said when we'd sold the house and everything and the money was through, not that there was a lot because there was 3 of us, and she didn't have a lot, but we always said we would use some of that money and do our own funeral plans, just so that we know what difference it would make to the kids, because it would, you know.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have at that time all that pressure of trying to sort out when you're so upset, because you are upset. It doesn't matter. My mum was 97, but I was still as upset as if whatever age she'd have been.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. She's still your mum, isn't she? And, you know, it's just hard. So, yeah, it made life so much easier. Yeah, very much so. Highly recommend it.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Sandra, for talking to me. It was lovely to hear
your
experience.
Yeah, no problem.